I want to keep adjusting my glasses. Okay, hello. Hello, hello, and hello.
Oh, we're live.
Yes, yes, it's happened. Finally.
I'm sure somewhere Mikey has a notification.
Maybe.
Somewhere.
He's scrambling through his
Somewhere.
phone. Okay, are we ready? Then let's begin.
Suppose so.
Sure. Hi, welcome to Australian Transformers Weekly. We are bringing you Transformers news from around the world with a slightly Australian accent. This weekend is auspicious. It is the most important weekend that has happened for a while because we've had a lot of Transformers toy reveals, and the most important reveal is going to happen on Monday morning when we get a new Doctor. Wait, no, sorry, that's the wrong podcast. Hi. So we're going to be talking about Transformers. This week, we're going to be talking about new Transformers reveals hot off the press from New York Comic Con. Some Bumblebee, Blitzwing, and Starscream debate will be hotting up, even though one side of the debate is not here. And do we have a wave of new third-party figures to discuss? I'm not sure we do, but it's in the run sheet. So we're either going to do it or we won't. But all of that and more will or won't be coming up after this.
Not anymore, it's not.
Sometimes we forget to edit properly. That was one of those times.
That was added. Okay, shall we go?
Mhm.
Shall we go? Okay, right. Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Jason. Joining me this week, we have Max coming to us from Adelaide in South Australia. How are you doing, Max?
I'm doing real well, thank you.
Are you anywhere near as underwater as Sydney is this week?
No, we've actually had a couple really nice dry days recently, so it finally feels like it's starting to get out of winter, which is nice.
Yes, we've had that too, but then it's suddenly just taken a nosedive back into winter towards the end of the week, and I had to swim home tonight.
Well, I suppose it's technically good for you.
That has never been said about Sydney before. Brad, how are you doing? Coming from your undisclosed location in country Victoria.
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I put a task to myself this week about sitting back and thinking, how could you do a solid reboot on Transformers to make it more adult, to sort of move past the action figure guide for kids and all that, and I don't think you can.
Oh, okay. Well, that went well.
Yeah,
big ideas.
poorly executed.
Well, that we'll get to that later.
Yeah, we certainly will.
Yes, we shall. Now, look, just a small production note. If I sound weird and different this week, apologies. I am trying out a new headset. It is the upcoming Razer Ifrit. Big thank you to Razer for loaning it to me. And if it doesn't work very well, then I won't be using it again. But next week we might be back to the normal microphone. If you're watching the video podcast, I am a little bit freaked out by the fact that the microphone is here instead of here. And the good thing about it is I can actually I can move around and I can turn my head around, and it doesn't take my input away from the microphone. But the bad thing is I'm just totally not used to it. So if it gets a little bit weird, I apologize.
Question.
Yes.
Is it Bluetooth enabled or is it plug into an ear jack?
It actually doesn't have Bluetooth. It does plug into a headphone jack.
That's all right.
Yeah.
So you don't have to fall or worry about falling into the trap of going to the toilet with it on your head.
No. Look, it's got a long cable, but it won't make it to the bathroom.
Okay.
See, I just don't trust the quality of product made by a company called Razer.
Well, so Razer's quite a well-regarded gaming brand, but they also make smartphones, and they make a lot of
smartphones. Okay.
They do. They purchased a company called Nextbit, and they use Nextbit's technology to make their phones now.
I've got a couple of keyboards and mouses, and they're quite nice. But
yeah, they're pretty cool.
Max might have had a bad experience.
Well, we won't talk about that then, shall we?
No.
Because they were kind enough to give us the headphones to try out. So, yeah. Anyway, what have we all been up to this week? Personally, I cannot believe another week has gone by, and frankly, it's begun the end run of the year into Christmas. Hell, I think daylight savings begins this weekend.
Oh, don't even mention it.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Hate is such a strong emotion for a thing that exists like daylight savings.
It infuriates. I hate it. I don't know how else to express how much I dislike it.
I don't understand why people hate it so much. It's just
It doesn't add any time to the day. It just shifts.
Well,
now
no,
it's
like
lighter.
no, but yeah, you
can't
schedule
add time to the
balances
day.
around it.
No,
Look,
it doesn't.
you need to spare a thought for the farmers. Like farmers are panicking everywhere because daylight savings. You're not a farmer, Brad.
I was.
Farmers are panicking everywhere this weekend because of the extra hour of sunlight that their crops will be getting, and like it's a bit of a problem.
They won't, because you lose that hour in the morning. It doesn't make any difference.
And in tonight's episode of Does the Internet Have a Sense of Humor, I present Brad. Shall we talk about some Transformers?
Let's. Before I go insane.
Before you go insane, I think it's a bit late.
Yes, well.
Let's start with the Bot Shots Weekly contest. This is the TCCO Weekly Facebook photography competition. We encourage you to take your bots out of the cabinet and get them out into the real world outside and take a photo and see whether or not you can topple Tyson Richards, because I'm not entirely sure that you can at this point. He's won too many of them, and this week he is again the winner.
Someone drug test this man, please.
With this pose, Masterpiece Hot Rod is fishing in a somewhat shallow seashell. Look at the size of it. It's a double whopper, all right. I'm not sure. Is it actually a double whopper? Can anyone tell?
I'm not.
No,
very
it's
well
not. It's actually
on the minutiae of Hungry
actually
Jack's
not.
menu items.
It's not a double whopper, because if you look at the box, the part that says double is not pressed in. Tyson,
No.
go back and do it again.
No,
shame, Hungry Jack.
he has completely gotten the quote wrong. It's a Whopper, all right. I don't know why it need to be double Whopper. I know he wanted to just go out and get one myself and just post it's a Whopper, all right, and put the photo beside his and see who got the most likes and just see who recognised the misquoting. It's a fantastic photo, Tyson, but I don't know. I do not understand why you've gone for double Whopper instead of just it's a Whopper.
Maybe he bought a double Whopper and just couldn't get past that fact. It's like,
maybe
must be accurate.
Maybe he's just annoyed that they forgot to press the double button in.
It's the quote from the film. It's a Whopper, all right. I don't get it.
All right.
Anyway, congrats, man.
Good job. Congratulations. At the end of each month, we do a random draw of all the weekly winners to see who gets to take away a little prize. What is the prize for this month, Brad? Did we decide, or was it last week?
No, we haven't got one yet. Get it up in next week.
We'll figure something out.
Yeah.
I think it's time we get to some news, because we started a little bit late, and it's time to just go headlong into it. What do you reckon?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
big news.
It has been a day of reveals. Look, the last 24 hours, in fact, definitely the last 24 hours, starting about this time last night, some stuff started hitting Twitter. This guy generated quite a lot of buzz and speculation for a few hours. There's a New York Comic Con is on at the moment in New York. We actually seem to have two members from TCCA's Facebook group over at New York Comic Con at the moment, having a good time. Victoria rep Chris Steffo was over there, and I did see another person over there, and I've forgotten his name. I'm sorry. Now, Matthew Elric Romeo, I believe his name was. So yeah, there's a couple of people over there having a bit of fun, and there was a Hasbro, as they said, a Hasbro Transformers brand panel organized for that hit overnight, but there seemed to be a breakfast event that happened earlier in the morning. We've seen breakfast events from Hasbro at New York Comic Con before. Last year they revealed Titans Return Trypticon. Was it last year? Was it the year before? I don't know.
The year before, I believe.
Yeah, you're probably right. Maybe. Yes, no, he came out last year. Whatever. I don't know what year it is. This year, now we've seen a lot of speculation over Transformers War for Cybertron Siege. The question has been, where are the Decepticons? And Hasbro finally, after what feels like a few months, has answered the question in style. They've revealed the evil side of the lineup for Siege. And it was at this event where people were coming in and they were given this artwork as posters to take away with them. So there's this fantastic shot of Megatron with some Tetrajets behind him, and little bit of stuff in the foreground that seems important for later. And then there was this one as well with Megatron's throne on top of what looks like a defeated Guardian head. Now, more importantly, here we've got very Generation 1 looking Decepticons here. So we've got Soundwave, we've got Starscream, Shockwave, and good old Thundercracker is there in the background as well. And of course, Megatron himself sitting on the throne. Now, if we go back, we can see that there is in fact a what would be a dead Guardian head here, because there's a bullet hole. Not that the Transformers actually fire bullets. There is a bullet hole in the glass on. We're going to call it Omega Supreme's head, but I don't think it's Omega Supreme. But
I think they've said it's
sure.
like story-wise, it's just
it's a Guardian.
Yeah,
Guardian, and then the inevitable toy
will be Omega Supreme.
Yeah, let's not lose our shit to the fact that
it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't matter. So this poster was explained by someone at Hasbro as Megatron having created a throne for himself out of a dead Guardian. So yeah. Now, so this fueled a bit of speculation overnight that we will be getting a Titan Omega Supreme. We're going to have a bit of a look in on that rumor later on, but this was the opening for the event for the Transformers Siege Decepticon reveals, and we're going to go right into it. So we open up with a press photos. We're going to alternate between press photos and actual photographs of the bots that Hasbro set up in a little bit of a battle scene and a diorama, which seemed to be in probably a hotel room or a function room near either near or at New York Comic Con. I think it was nearby. And given that it was a press event. So Megatron, very, very Generation 1 form here with the addition of a massive sword weapon.
Yeah, very sort of G1 toy looking sword.
Yeah, it really is, isn't it? It's at this point we should probably call out the sort of distressed paint aesthetic. Now we've seen it on the press renders for the Autobots before, but it hasn't really been quite as overt. And so it's way more obvious on these press renders, and then you will see it in some of the photos as well. So
yeah,
you can see there's a lot of sort of scuff marks and stuff on Megatron's legs there, and a lot across his chest. The rest of him is kind of scuff free, but we'll see how that goes. He's got his trademark cannon on his arm, and he's ready for battle. So yeah, he's got a massive sword as well. Now there's a good chunky aesthetic to his limbs, and I think it really does adhere a lot to G1, which is really impressive when you then look at this and go, well, they actually made that into a tank.
Yeah, it's a massive color switch as well.
Yeah,
this
it really
tank
is.
Predominantly black, whereas the Robot mode is very much predominantly sort of grey silver.
It looks to me like his tank mode is sort of predominantly his legs on the outside that sort of seem to split open and bring the black.
It's probably a lot of him sort of face down, all the black stuff is towards his back.
Yeah, you're probably right. It's probably flipped off his back. In fact, I'm pretty sure I have seen photographs of Megatron's back that bring this up. Now, this is also a shot with which is the Micromaster we've got here, or one of the Battle Masters.
This is Blowpipe.
Yeah. So Blowpipe can form an additional weapon for him, and then there's sort of a battle effect that you can also attach there as well.
Yeah, I think the thing to note with Siege is at this point the line is a fair few line-wide gimmicks. So it's like G1 robot mode, Cybertronian alt mode, these weapons carried across, and the battle damage paint. So there's a few like sort of line-wide themes that continue through all these figures.
Yeah, and so we'll go into the actual real shot here. Now, this image really struck me quite immediately. It's a really impressive shot, and I mean, props to Hasbro for setting up the whole thing, because like setting up little battle dioramas like this is not easy at all, and they've really gone above and beyond with this. One thing I will say is that it does sometimes make it a little bit difficult to tell who's who in some of the photos, but we'll have a look and we'll delve into those a little bit more later. So you can see here Megatron's quite well posable and quite well articulated. Now, I think he's sort of relying on his left leg to sort of prop him up a little bit there, but still pretty well done. And you can see he's got the sword. His cannon sort of is a little bit higher up his arm than I expected it would be, but I guess
Yeah,
it's
well,
neither
it
here
doesn't
nor
look like he has 5mm pegs on his forearms as well, so you can sort of go for both looks. Because
yeah. I can see a hole just under the cannon, the front of
just
the
because of
cannon.
how
Is that what
much,
you're talking about?
yeah, because of how much weapons customizability is, a one-line feature for these guys. Wouldn't
Yeah, that's
surprise me.
right.
You just chop and change stuff around a bit. Like, and then even if you look at his tank mode, you can see that they've swapped around parts, so the cannon actually has much more of a different look there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, traditionally these days when Megatron turns into a tank, his cannon becomes the main gun of the tank. But yeah, there are some serious changes to it. You can also see some tank treads on his back. Probably explains where some of the extra black comes from. And there's the tank mode more up close there. So yeah, you can see there's sort of his main arm cannon is in there, but then there's an attachment to the front of it.
Yeah, and it's like
Is that attachment part of the sword?
Yeah, it sort of forms the core
Yeah, there
section
you
of the
go.
sword.
So there you go. Look. People will say it's a little bit of parts forming. I don't really care. It looks fine.
It's an evolution of what they've done for the Combiner Wars Megatron, where the whole gun was his arm, where now they've got that little bit extra that comes off, just so it's not a big
Yeah,
cannon on his arm.
Yeah,
because
and the whole
Combiner Wars
gimmick.
Megatron's cannon was a bit weird. Sorry, Max.
Yeah, well, like if the whole gimmick is weapon customization, then I see no reason for this to be taken as an issue.
Yeah. So you can see his leg at the back there, and the backpack part at the front, forming the tank
It
tread.
does, like, even as good as it looks, it does seem to adhere to that like generic. Okay, we're gonna make a transformer into a tank. Just do the whole H take thing, or it's just four limbs spread out and a turret on top. But for just
No,
a generic H tank, it does look pretty solid.
not only that, we'll get to some other alt modes later. This doesn't seem like very much of a Cybertronian alt mode, especially with the tracks. Like you'd think it'd just be a hover tank.
Yeah, maybe. Look, maybe it is actually a hover tank. I might be misspeaking about the tracks.
No,
Look,
it's
definitely
you
tracks
can see some there.
yeah.
Anyway, look,
Anyway.
why can't he be both? And so one of the other things that Hasbro made a point of at the overnight event was that Megatron and Prime are perfectly scaled to each other, and with them next to each other here, you can see they do look pretty damn good together.
Yeah, you always love it to do, like, Megatron's just like that little bit bulkier and that little bit taller. Always works so well.
He's really checking out his own alt mode there.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, God damn, I look good.
Yeah. So is this the first time that we've actually seen sort of a detailed shot of Optimus Prime as well? Like, I feel like we've seen pictures before, but nothing sort of this up close and
I
detailed.
think we've seen magazine scans, haven't we?
Some, yeah.
Well, see, at least CG renders, but
Yeah.
Yeah,
So look, I think this is a pretty good looking Prime.
Yeah, God, I feel like we've been sleeping on these Siege figures a bit. Like, they all look surprisingly really solid.
They do. I think there's some questions about some of the detailing on some of the figures, but these guys seem to have a pretty appropriate level of detail. I gotta say, I don't really like the distressed paint job looks, and
I've yet to see someone who does, to be honest.
Yeah.
question.
yeah.
How do you feel about the distressed look on Masterpiece Megatron? I think
Masterpiece Megatron doesn't have a distressed look.
Well, he does if your paint falls off.
The replacement chest piece.
That's not distressed. That's battle damage.
Okay.
Yeah, that's more of a, like, that's specifically sculpted as well.
Yeah. So the thing is here that the distressed paint job, like, it's not a damaged piece. They've just sort of they've just done like a speckled paint
The
job.
piece
over it
here
to
and
look
there,
like
yeah.
it's busy and being busy, or being somewhere messy and sort of got mud and grime all over him. And so like if you look at his leg, like, it looks battle damaged, but it's not. So yeah, so that's the sort of distressed look to the paint jobs that it doesn't really sit very well with me, and I'm kind of hoping that at some point there might just be like a special edition or a platinum pack or something that just offers these figures with a normal paint job. But
Oh god, yeah. As much as Hasbro loves to reuse molds, surely they've got to show up at some point down the line.
Yeah, and
The paint job almost feels like it's doing a disservice to the figures because they look.
it looks like they left them
really
outside.
They look really well engineered, and the rest of the paint that isn't the down damage looks really solid and could be adequate in and of itself. It's just that you have this weird distressed thing going on, which doesn't really fit in.
And we're going to get to some bots here where it really looks bad.
Yeah, that's true.
Or
Let's
worse.
move on. So, we've known for some time that we're going to get a leader class Shockwave out of this line, and lo and behold, we have a leader class Shockwave here now. With the Transformers Siege toy line, it seems like the leader class figures come with some additional armor that can form sort of, in Shockwave's case, a kind of a battle platform, and this piece can sort of be taken apart and become extra armor that attaches to Shockwave. So on his own, he's got a very G1 look, and then he goes weird when you add.
Oh,
on
Hasbro,
parts.
you do make me happy.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Really?
It's ridiculous. I love it. It's fantastic. You look at that and it's like, yeah, Shockwave's like a mad scientist. So of course, how's he going to upgrade himself? I don't know. Just like put guns on your feet and get 2 extra arms. It's fantastic.
You, sir, are an evil little man.
Well, it's because you take away that and you've got like the most G1 ass looking Shockwave you've ever seen in the world, right?
You really do.
It looks like the masterpiece.
Yeah, I feel like
Except
Hasbro's
more posable.
really
No, it looks
the masterpiece
better.
on some of these. Brad's going to say it looks better because you can't see through his legs.
You can see into his legs.
Maybe the legs look better. I'll give you that much.
So
And
here's
actually,
a leader class figure too, so he's going to be pretty damn big.
you could, in theory, replace your masterpiece, and it would actually look pretty good.
I probably would.
Probably comparable.
Also, there's this. So
Yeah, apparently this is a reference to Macross.
How?
This big.
It looks
I
like
don't
one of
know.
those space carrier
I don't know
things.
because I haven't seen Macross.
I feel like half the Siege line has references to Macross in its alt modes. We'll see Soundwave come up later on, but like, I don't know what this is, but it's an excuse for not making a gun.
This isn't gonna
also this is it with all those add-on parts like attached onward. So you see, the bit sticking up there, and you look at the front, and it's pretty clear that this is basically just something where you can take all the extra bits off, and it's going to be his G1 gun mode.
Yeah.
But of course, it's a 6-shot situation where they can't actually call it the gun mode.
Oh,
So
that looks fine.
It's a space submarine.
Yeah, it's just like the Fall of Cybertron Shockwave. I don't mind that sort of levitating big cannon sort of mode. That doesn't.
As like, I don't know, I feel like it works well as like a spaceship type thing. You've got that raised bridge up there, and it doesn't need to be aerodynamic. It needs to be functional because it's a spaceship.
This isn't going to be another Harmony Gold issue, is it?
No, it's not.
Anything that involves Harmony Gold is automatically an issue.
Yeah, but Macross isn't going to say, "Hey,
nothing will involve Harmony Gold." Stop bringing it up.
Okay.
Let's have a look at some real photos of Shockwave. Now, this is quite impressive. I got to say, he has a bit of a darker purple than I expected. Like from these renders don't really do the purple of the toy justice.
Which I think is a good thing. We're talking about the masterpiece, and that has sort of that very cartoony light purple, whereas this is, hey, if you want your more toy colored Shockwave, here you go. Because this is what most people remember Shockwave as, because he was this color in the comic as well.
So there's a bit of a sort of picture from behind, so you can see the sort of the front of the ship is just sort of sitting there as a bit of a backpack.
Are those laser bolt things part of it, or they just add that to this diorama?
Those are little effect pieces.
Yeah.
You mean the little pink ones?
Yeah, well, we've seen the effect pieces with Megatron, so I'm guessing this being a leader figure.
Yeah, I think they must sit on the front of the
There's no hole there on the cannon or nothing for it. It must peg over it.
I think it just sits over.
Yeah.
So look, I think it just sits on the nozzle. Also, good on them for sort of going from one hand, one nozzle to 3 nozzles, 1 hand. Shockwave is very handy. Yeah. And you see he's got his gun shoes as well.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Like, you have your very G1 Shockwave there, but to just jump the shark completely, and it worked. Because Shockwave, he's like a mad scientist. This is how he'd upgrade himself.
Do you know the one thing I can't get past with this?
What?
The shoulder attachments just look like a leg.
But
Mm,
they are
yeah.
literally the same thing as his legs.
Yeah, I know.
Like the
It's
same
just kind
sculpt
of
as
weird.
his G1 legs. But then if you see on the sides of them, they're thrusters for the alt mode, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
So I wonder if you could fan mode it and just have them as some sort of gun handle underneath his alt mode.
I suspect you might be able to do that because it kind of looks in ship mode like you might be able to
Yeah,
sort of
just
I
fold
swing
it
it
down.
arms down.
I suspect this entire line with the whole weapon gimmick and stuff is built with fan moding in mind.
I think
So
I think you can definitely make him into
you
a,
look at
a
something like
submarine.
this, and it's like, yeah, they want you to muck about with this, basically.
All right, let's move on. So lo and behold, Reflector is making a comeback, but Reflector is no longer trademarkable as a name, so he's called Refractor with a
Really?
K. Yep, he's
We
called.
couldn't call it Decepticon Reflector. They do it for the Autobots.
Yeah, I don't know. They chose not to.
Yeah.
And so Reflector has a couple of gimmicks. So each of these characters has so Reflector has this part detachable, and you can I don't know if that's sort of shown there, but yeah. So there's a spoiler there. So you can detach that part so that you can make one of them the center piece. But if you on their own, they turn into this sort of gun ship kind of thing mode.
It's got a little bridge there. It's
Yeah, it does.
kind of aggressively mediocre.
If you buy 3 of them, you can attach them together to form a camera.
Oh, so all 3 bots are exactly identical. You just remove that centerpiece.
Yes.
So it's an arm builder.
Yeah, so you'll see in the photographs there that that you can remove this right now. This is something that I find really, really cool and impressive. Like, I'm really impressed by the sculpt of this figure and how it looks in person. Now, I also think that the BotCon Reflector from the final year's BotCon was actually probably the precursor to bringing Reflector out of storage and making this figure, because he did in fact turn into something like this. It was also a bit of it was also a Shockwave repaint. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
But I feel like that encouraged them to actually get this going. So you can change him from his gun platform ship thing. You can make a really impressive, retro style camera out of him, and it looks like the parts of the lens also turn into a bit of a shield. For them.
I was going to say, so you need at least 3 of them to make that lens. I'm guessing the glass is folded up inside that cover.
I think so. Yes.
Yeah.
So looking at that, it looks like it's sort of like an opening.
Yeah, it's 3 sections to the lens in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One each, and the guns form the tripod and what have you. I don't know. It just looks really good. I mean,
it does. Do you know why this looks good?
Why?
There's no paint distressing on him.
Yeah, that is another thing. Is he looks plain, but he's still covered in paint. Right? He's well detailed. He's full of posability, which seems to be something they're really going for here.
Yeah,
ordinarily,
you can see.
I can't really critique him in any negative way.
No. Looking at these guys here, like you can see shoulder joints. You can see the arms can go out, the elbows. You can see the legs rotate in and out as well. And these guys even have ankle tilts. Look at them. So you can see them most on the left here. If I zoom that up a bit, like you can see there's a pin there.
Yep.
That's really impressive on what is essentially a really small character.
I mean, they were saying they were going for heavy articulation as a line-wide thing in Siege, and it shows.
It really does.
And it doesn't need to be a forced repaint of another character to try and combine. Like, Jason, have you still got that Shockwave repaint BotCon set?
Yeah, I was talking about them earlier.
Yeah,
they're great.
Yeah,
they're fantastic. I really like them.
Those will still hold up, like because that's maybe the best Legends mold ever made. Right? And
Shockwave is really impressive. Yeah.
Yeah, and they still look like the robot modes. It's like, you can't really do a camera, but
it's more it's a satellite up mode or something, isn't it?
Yeah, it's more. It's still for characters, but it just doesn't feature that one specific thing.
So the one thing that I'm really impressed with is that they've managed to get the robot mode to G1 accurate, but they've gone a little bit to town on the alt mode, which I think is really impressive.
it's such a consistent thing here that it looks these robot modes look like they transform across all of Siege into exactly the G1 character, and in most cases they are very far from that.
Yeah, there's a couple of little Micromaster, Battlemaster guys in front there. One is Blowpipe, and I can't remember the name of the other one. I was really hoping Max would come in with the other one there, but I don't know.
That good.
They're the same bot, they're just different colour.
So they're actually not like.
Oh.
So the chest is the same but repainted, but the arms actually do have some slightly different detailing on them.
Yeah.
But like essentially, you're right. They're the same bot.
The other bloke is Aimless.
Yeah, Blowpipe and Aimless.
Just what you want for a target master.
Aimless, yes.
Yeah.
He is a target master though, so yeah. Let's talk about this guy. So this is now Starscream is a deluxe, I believe, right?
I think he's a Voyager.
Maybe he's a Voyager. Yeah, look, the amount of detail on him would probably say Voyager more than deluxe.
Yeah,
so.
Starscream and Megatron are the Voyagers.
Yeah. So Starscream has a large amount of detail, but this is the CG render, and I think some of that detail, as we always see with renders, will not actually be quite as visible when you get the toy in front of you. Oh, sorry, that was my microphone. Now he's got a very G1-esque bot mode, although they've taken a few liberties in order to sort of do the transformation that they want, which is for the first time ever he transforms into a Tetrajet. Now,
hello.
This is of course based on Cybertron, so it's a Cybertronian alt mode, and you might be wondering how the cockpit goes from his G1 mode to that. There's a very easy answer, which is that it is actually on the back.
The answer is it doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't. His sort of main front of his body is attached to the back of the jet, but that's okay. It's neither.
That's G1 accurate.
I've seen a lot of people drag this figure. Like there is not a lot of love.
Hasbro appears to have dragged it through something, judging by that paint job. Yes.
But I have frequently said on this podcast that we have not yet had a G1 style Seeker mold that holds up to modern standards.
And I'm pretty sure that people have actually responded to those assertions and explained there's a reason for that. And here is your reason.
What's the reason?
So look, this doesn't look exactly like a Tetrajet. It actually kind of feels a little bit like a Viper from Battlestar Galactica.
Oh yeah, I definitely got that feel.
Yeah, it really does. But like, I do think it's fine.
Yeah, no, I think it looks good. That's the thing that I was getting to, is that I think this looks like a legitimately good Seeker figure. I mean, sure, the Tetrajet mode is not entirely accurate, but what are you going to do? Like, it's tricky enough turning the incredibly bricky look of the G1 Seekers into whatever the jet's called, but then you go from that into something like a Tetrajet, which is entirely smooth curves and everything. That's much harder to achieve, and to do a moderate looking Tetrajet into a pretty decent looking Seeker robot mode, I'd say they've achieved it pretty well.
So
yeah. Unique Toys or Impossible Toys, whoever was, tried it once, and for the most part that figure was alright, apart from the fact that it had the massive. It was a shell former, just because of the fact it was a massive Tetrajet alt mode, but
and it was also really soft detail. Like it just looked like mush. Whereas the detail seems to be. It just looked like plastic mush.
I don't understand what plastic mush looks like.
I don't know how to describe it. It was like there was no fine edges to anything.
Because it was okay.
It was
anyway.
like,
that's what the cartoon looks like.
let's talk about what is in front of us. So, Starscream does, of course, have his null ray cannons.
Get ready for 4 repaints at least, or 5.
Yeah, look. So this is the thing I was going to say, right? Like, I'm really not looking forward to buying multiples of this. I don't think I will. I don't know if I'll even buy the first.
I've bought multiples of exactly one Seeker mold, and that's all I'm ever going to buy.
I've got multiples of the G1 generation Seeker kind of thing, like the all the F-15s or whatever they are, and like that's kind of enough. Like I don't feel the need to go all in on another Seeker, and I don't really feel like this guy's going to be sort of sitting on people's shelves for a long time as like a classic design.
These are the only figures from this line I'm looking at actively buying, and that's purely for the Tetrajet mode and to have the Seekers in Tetrajet mode.
I don't know. I don't get why people aren't responding to this well.
It looks like shit.
Is it just me? I think it looks really solid.
No, it looks like ass.
So
maybe it's because I think every other Seeker mold is crap, so I'm just defaulting to this looks good.
But he's a Voyager, right? So he's going to be $50. So
that too.
Unless the Voyager
$50.
price goes up.
Yeah, there's that too.
Let's have a look at him in action now. This is something that I wanted to pick up on some of the figures in this diorama. Some of these do look like they're prototypes that have been sort of hand painted, and I feel like Starscream's. I feel like the red around his chest looks quite messy.
It looks like he's been too close to an oven or something. There's just the detail looks melted.
Yeah, I feel like these are hand painted prototypes.
I think that red on the chest is supposed to be battle damage, like little splotches of silver.
You know how I feel about battle damage.
You feel the same way I do.
So yeah, sure. Interestingly enough, notes the pink firing effect has been attached to Starscream's null rays. So maybe it's not a part of Shockwave.
Maybe it's
those. I think those come with the target masters. So
that makes sense. Yeah. Speaking of which, also we are looking at Starscream wielding a Micromaster Air Patrol combined together.
That we haven't seen yet. Yeah.
Also, they were announced as a part of these reveals. So yeah, there's as we know in the Micromaster teams this year there's 2 of them, and in this case these guys can combine into one weapon. Also pretty neat. There's a lot of different play modes for these guys. Now there's Starscream's Tetrajet mode, and now this does not look as sharp as the renders, and so this is kind of where looking at this, I was just like, yeah, okay. And there's a lot of stuff hanging off the bottom of that Tetrajet.
I know, but what are you gonna do? Like, I don't see how much else they could have done.
I still say this is the reason they didn't do them before.
Yeah, it's such an impossible design to achieve. Like, the Impossible Toys ones did it, and they did it accurately, but they were crap.
Yeah.
Whereas this is inaccurate and looks good.
It looks pretty good from this angle, at least.
Yeah, it's a nice, smooth finish to it. Like one sort of continuous surface, and it looks well refined. Like, I don't want to sing its praises, like it's a renaissance of Transformers engineering, but it just looks solid.
I 100% renounce my previous statement. I had not seen a shot of that bottom, and yes, you do not pose it upside down, but still, wow.
No, look, just to go back to my impressions of it being hand painted. If you look at the way the light is reflecting off the top there, I'm pretty sure this is a one-off. But yeah.
I think because this entire plastic it's got too much of a dull finish to it to be.
I agree.
I wonder. Can you go back to the undershot? I wonder if there's any way to detach that. If there's a pin or something, just to get rid of those legs.
There's probably some way you can do it. I mean, people have done it with Ghibli figures before. Like, I remember that first edition Optimus Prime for Age of Extinction. You could literally form the robot mode and the vehicle mode completely separately.
Yeah,
like, you can probably do it. On the topic of just how much it's carrying underneath, I don't quite see how you deal with that, to be honest, because you look at the size of the Tetrajet on top, right? And you look at the size of the stuff on the bottom, and you think about how much bigger, like, that Tetrajet casing would need to be to encompass that.
Can I just point out, like, Hasbro didn't need to make Tetrajets.
No.
They chose to, and this is the design that they've chosen to go with. Like, they could have chosen something else.
Yeah, either the top's got to look bigger, or you're going to have little spindly legs that are going to look horrible, and maybe Bayverse.
Yeah, so you'd either have an undersized Voyager with a large backpack.
Yeah.
Or you'd have an undersized Voyager, or you'd have a regular size one, which just has a massive, great backpack on it. Like, there's no real way around this, unless you want to make the entire thing inaccurate and have, all his limbs covered in curved surfaces.
Hmm.
Right,
But still, paint it red and white and call it a viper. It does look like that there.
It does, doesn't it?
Anyway,
Let's move on. This dude has been very popular the last few weeks for some reason. He does appear to be wearing his cassettes on his sleeves, which is an interesting stylistic choice.
Soundwave that's supposed to go in your chest.
Yeah, well, so if you look in his
Production
chest,
note.
someone's already in there. So, Soundwave has been quite popular the last couple of weeks. He took everyone's breath away in the teaser for the Bumblebee movie last week, and this week we are looking at his War for Cybertron Siege appearance. He's got a very, very Generation 1 style bot mode. Like, it's really impressive just how much they've managed to make this figure look like the G1 bot when he transforms into this.
Yeah, which apparently this is another Macross thing.
It is a Cybertronian hovercraft.
And he was at the beach that day.
So this is actually why I'm saying, like, it feels like the entire line is a Macross reference, because it seems like everyone has one of these modes.
Look, it looks like a Cybertronian spaceship. Like,
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
like a big,
does.
like a carrier type thing, the cargo transport or something, which would, make sense for Soundwave because it's a bit more utilitarian. Like,
so one of the things to be aware of here is that in this mode he actually does have storage for the cassettes. So the cassettes can essentially launch from this mode.
I think they referred to it as like a docking bay or something.
Yeah, something like that.
A tape deck.
Yeah. So as we saw, the tapes can peg into 5mm peg holes. Now, it's not just Soundwave who can wield these as well. Like we've seen some of the characters in the diorama with these guys attached as well. So they sort of, I guess, function as shields. We are, of course, looking at Ravage and Laserbeak. We'll come back to that. So Ravage kind of looks a little bit more like what is it, Steeljaw, the lion blaster's tape.
Ravage looks kind of similar to the Bumblebee movie version. With larger patches of white, and he's a bit bulkier and everything.
This is true. Yeah, it does go to my theory that they're all related, right?
Yeah, I was going to ask that question at the start of the news.
So I love Laserbeak's sort of yellow eye patch area thing there as well.
Yeah, like first appearance Laserbeak.
Yes, yeah, very much. I like that. So let's go back and have a proper look at Soundwave's bot mode. Now, as I was saying, like, it's very, very G1. The weapon in his left hand is pretty G1. The weapon in his right hand, not so much. But it's like he's got a version of that classic Soundwave leg design going. He's got sort of the big sort of cassette chest piece. He does seem to have inherited Optimus Prime's problem from Combiner Wars, where he's got a massive piece of glass that needs repairing. Someone needs to call Windscreen O'Brien, see if they do Cybertronian call-outs. But look, he's even got the sort of the tape deck controls on the waist, and he's also got quite a bit of articulation there as well. Like, you can see those control bits moving in and out as they move the legs around.
Question: why have the tape deck controls on his waist if he doesn't have them in alt mode?
Because this is the thing: the bots are very G1 accurate, and Soundwave's bot had it in G1. The alt mode, all bets are off.
All right.
Yeah, it's like they're going for the G1 cartoon thing where it's like, it looks like the characters do on Earth, but they turn into the Cybertronian alt modes.
Yeah.
All right. We'll return to this when we get to the end.
Small little Easter egg as well. He can turn into a Cybertronian lamppost.
Of course he can.
So there's a Laserbeak Ravage. I quite like their cassette modes. They're detailed, but they're simple.
It looks better than Stripes.
It does. Yeah, it's very.
Yeah, they're not doing the stupid iPhone things.
Well, that's one of the biggest things. How do you bring Soundwave into today's age without microcassettes? But
yeah. Now, looking at this again, I feel like this is a hand painted prototype. So the finish doesn't really look like I would expect a figure to look out of the box. But
they've put a gloss on it. It's too glazy.
Well, yeah, I think that's
I imagine the cracked window is probably just going to be a sticker, stuff like that.
Oh,
yeah.
No.
Oh, yeah.
That's too easy.
Yeah. Also, one other little note.
Exactly what Hasbro would do.
One other little note here is I'm not sure if you'll see it in here. There you go. So you can actually see it here now. You'll note that his left hand actually has a pose where his index finger is slightly extended, which means when you get
Trigger
to
finger.
no, when you get to here, he can do the eject pose. And
Also, the eject
that
button is painted silver here where it wasn't before.
Correct. Look at that. Yes. So there you go. So Soundwave can do the classic eject pose, which is quite a boon. Like a lot of Soundwave figures have not been able to do that.
Hmm.
There's a bit of a close up look at Ravage, and you can see he's next to Megatron's tank treads. And that's about all we got for Ravage there. Now this guy's new, and I can't remember his name. What's his?
Oh, was this Brunt? Yeah,
Brunt. Yes.
Brunt. Which
So
is apparently
Brunt has a bit of a Galvatron feel to him in terms of colors. But what were we saying? He's a reference to?
well, apparently Brunt is the little guy that came with Triptychon.
I was going to say, yeah.
Fair enough.
Which I thought that was the little guy that came with Titans Return Triptychon, but I don't know. I don't know my G1 accessory figures too
Yeah, fair enough.
much.
So
But
look, this guy turns into yet another Cybertronian tank. But I like this guy's getting quite a lot of love online. Like, I like that he looks different. Actually, maybe rather than a tank, he looks like he might be a bit of an anti-aircraft battery or something like that. But I just like that he's different. He's got
He looks like a
different feel
generic
to him.
goon, you know, like just a
Yeah.
Decepticon.
So he looks a little bit like a generic goon, but like his robot mode is pretty impressive. I like it. He's got these big claws for hands.
Yeah.
He's got quite a lot of detail in his legs and his movement.
Yeah, he's very much styled after the Cybertronian Centurions from the Stormbringer comic.
Yeah. A
lot of people are, sort of pointing this out as what is probably going to be repainted into Impactor, and probably also Striker.
Possibly. Did we not already see Impactor?
We have not seen Impactor. We just know
he's coming. We know that he's coming. Yeah. Fair enough. So yeah, that wouldn't be surprising. Here he is for reals. Now, so this is the part where he becomes a lot more impressive to me than like the render is like okay, but this looks cool. Like I like how much detail there is on him.
Why has he got a gun handle on his torso?
A gun
because he
handle?
splits into a whole bunch of guns.
Okay.
Yes. So he does. So he actually, he can actually, he officially parts forms.
Yeah, this is another really impressive thing about they're calling them weaponizer deluxes. Is that they look functional as a regular deluxe, but they actually have
they break apart.
Extra capacity to them.
I don't know whether or not I got a photo of that, but yeah. A couple of other photos just to round us out before we sort of finish up and move on. Now, you can see Hound here, and I feel like this is one of the clearest shots we've got of Siege Hound.
Yeah, one it's actually just static, and you can get a good look at him.
Yeah, and he looks pretty neat. I like him. Like, it's just a nice looking figure.
That flywheels or Skytread, as they're calling him now.
You mean this dude?
Yeah.
He looks awesome.
Looks so good.
I did fully expect him to be a repaint of Battletrap, and I'm really impressed that that's not what they've done.
No, yeah, he just looks so well done. I mean, there's not much else to say there. He's a really solid looking figure. I mean,
correct. Yeah.
Just looks like G1 flywheels, but updated, perfectly proportioned and everything. The sculpt is nice and coherent. Looks well poseable. I mean, God,
so yet again, like given that he's a couple of small figures combined together, like yet again, like there's awesome things happening at small scale in the Generations line. One small little note: you can see side swipe over to the right there. Haven't got any images of him specifically, and also the figure on the left here. I think this is Cog, is it?
Yeah, he's from G1 Fort Max. He's the same thing as Brunt. Just split apart for a bunch of guns. Yeah.
Well, also neat. So yeah. Now, I think that is about it. There's a spoiler.
Hmm.
So, how are we feeling about Siege?
Very
Have
positive.
have has Chunky, what's he called? I don't even know his name now. Have we jumped the G1 shark here now?
I don't know. How are you feeling about Siege? That was the question.
Horrible.
Why?
Since Combiner Wars, we have gone on this trend of staying specifically G1 orientated. For the 30 years before that, we've done new things. We've had new designers come in. We've employed new designers and done all this stuff and had different characters. It's not. All this stuff is just garbaged, recycled.
We've been getting
G1.
G1 styled stuff for the better part of 10 years now.
Not
More
so
than
much.
that if you count masterpieces. Like,
not counting masterpiece. I'm counting mass release.
because this is the main collector line nowadays because it's the best selling one because people
I don't know
really
why.
like it.
I don't know why.
Because people like this stuff. Like it's a matter of just these are iconic designs and people find more attachment to them. And
So
we're still getting these new ones. You know, we're still getting. You know, we just finished RRD. Now we're going to Cyberverse. You know, we're getting all this new movie stuff, and like, yeah, it is. I will say that, yeah, like the comics steer fairly G1, Cyberverse is steering more G1, the movies are steering more G1, but I feel like it'll come back around. You know, if we're gonna have like this little renaissance of G1, it's okay. I mean, I do like the new things, but.
I'm talking specifically Combiner Wars, Titans Return, Power of the Primes, Siege.
It's because it's the generations.
It's going to be 2 more after Siege because
exactly.
So
how many more Primes, how many more Megatrons, how many more Shockwaves, Soundwaves, Seekers do you need?
I'm fine with as many as we get. Okay. So if we keep on getting like obscure stuff like Flywheels and Cog and what have you, because yeah, we are doing G1 again, but I think people forget just how expansive G1 was. Like there's still a lot of ground yet to be covered.
Why are we seeing the same 5 characters, 10 characters done?
Because they're the ones that sell.
Because it's easy to make money.
Like people will buy an Optimus Prime, they might not buy Cog.
Lights on.
Yeah. I mean, look, we've talked about this before. Like Hasbro, you might well consider that things like Energon and Armada, where they did actually go out and create. Well, they created new characters, but they did keep some of the names. But you might
name convention's fine. It's just
you might well consider some of those toys and toy lines a bit of a failure because they've dumped them and then gone with something new after that, and they've enjoyed some success. So there's a reason we keep coming back to Optimus Prime, and we keep getting Optimus Prime characters, and we keep getting Bumblebee characters because they're the ones that sell. So it's not really too much of a surprise to see the line that's actually aimed at collectors go, yeah, you know what, we're just going to give you guys what we think you want. But that's not what you want. But I think you're not really the typical collector.
No, but that's been the franchise for 30 years. Has been rebooting every 3 to 4 years and coming up with something new, having a new content on TV.
I think you might be overestimating just how new everything in the Thrilling 30 line was, and that came well before Combiner Wars.
That was the start of it.
We've been doing Classics and Universe for over 10 years now.
Yeah, Classics and Universe have been around for a really long time, and they've been retreading G1 characters for a really long time. So I don't really know, because you did specifically say that this started with Combiner Wars, but it's been going on for a long time.
Yeah, I think I do get where you're coming from. Because on the one hand, like the idea of nostalgia is like, hey, this thing should remain as it is, and it's like, hey, why don't we have more G1? And on the one hand, I'm like, well, if you want G1, you have G1. Like, you can go back to it. It hasn't gone anywhere, right? But on the other hand, if this is what people want, if this is what they're going to buy, then Hasbro's going to make it.
But we've talked.
There's plenty of G1 that just hasn't been touched yet. Like even in the Generations line, right? Like going back 10 years or so, we were getting figures that of G1 characters that never got figures in the first place, and there's still plenty that haven't been touched either. So
yeah, we've discussed pre-Combiner Wars with the Generations line about how G1-esque it is, but how good those figures are. We've talked about Springer and Sandstorm and other figures like that, how they're not ideally G1 characters, and
But they are
still,
literally G1 characters.
yeah, but they're more comic orientated or
Mhm.
something. But yeah,
Something,
just
yeah.
now.
But the thing is that like they've been retreading these G1 characters for a long time. Like, are you upset because Flywheels is literally a jet and a tank combined, and he's
No,
not something
Flywheels,
else?
these last two, Flywheels and whatever that last purple one, are fine. They're the best looking bots out of this whole lot. They are solid looking bots. They are not hollow crap that we've seen from Hasbro the last 2.5 years.
So I do think that these bots look a lot more solid than we have been getting.
Yeah, there was someone I've seen
certainly more
someone.
solid than like Cyberverse stuff.
Yeah, someone commented in the group today or the other day about how these bots have not felt as solid as since Prime. Where last week I showed the RID Bumblebee, which is a solid figure. There's no holes. The inside legs are there. There's no gaps. None of that seemingly cuss-cutting in engineering, but so that's sort of blaring. That's going into another issue apart from the G1 thing. So,
But look, I think the cost cutting exists for a harsh reality of a reason, which is that plastic is made from oil, and world oil prices go up. So, as the prices for actually the raw materials for these figures go up, there's a couple of things that happen. Either the figures themselves come down in size, and I suspect these might end up being a little bit smaller than we think. The figures go down in size, or you use all these tricks that that companies have been coming up with when they do 3D printing. Like, instead of printing something solid, they print it with like a hexagonal insert or something, so that it's got structural integrity, but it doesn't, it uses like 1/20th of the materials. And like, you can see that, like, look at Sideswipe's leg over here as
there's got
well.
a hole in the back of it. Yeah.
So yeah, like, there's a hole in the back of it. There's this part around here around where the left knee comes in, and that's because they don't want to spend the material on the inner leg of this character, because it's going to put the price up, and it's going to have an effect on something else that's less noticeable or more noticeable.
He's the same size as Flywheels, less detailed, same parts count, being a deluxe figure. Yet he's got the hole in back leg.
I wouldn't say the parts count is the same, but sure.
Well,
Yeah,
But what I'm trying to say is that there are reasons why you get the hollowed out legs and the hollowed out arms.
Mhm.
Look, Flywheels has a hollow area here in his arm where his hand goes in.
Well,
right?
they all have that because of that fold out hand gimmick. But,
Yep.
Yeah.
Some of these things I think you just need to accept as modern engineering and modern economics.
Yep. It's all right. I'll just get back on my rocking chair and start yelling at kids on my front lawn. That's fine.
All right, so let's try to breeze through the rest of it. There's not too much to go on here, but Hasbro revealed the tank head of the Autobot Guardian that we looked at earlier, with a couple of images making their way around Twitter and some news sites. So this was from the Hasbro Transformers brand presentation, and you can see just how big Omega Supreme's head is going to be on the forthcoming Titan class figure here. Now, I'm not entirely certain what part is being held and moving on here, but if we go and look at this one there as well, so there's a better shot of the tank that will be going around Omega Supreme's tracks.
The Triptychon's leg was far more impressive. It looks about the same size as what the current G1 tank is. It doesn't look. It's a little bit bigger, but not by much. So I know that it should be as big as what we've got already, but until Predacon come out, I was happy to see Omega Supreme, but we'll wait and see what we get with the rest of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but look, Omega Supreme is definitely going to be the 2019 Titan class Transformer.
Which means those one Scorponok are going to have to wait another year or two.
I think so. So, look, I guess they can't do 3 Decepticon Titans in a row, right?
We need a bot
between, space them out. So one of the last reveals that we will be talking about from New York Comic Con was some poster art seen from Entertainment Earth going into things in the last week with what looked like a new studio series Drift, and it turns out there's So here he is. So new Studio Series Drift. He is packaged with the mini Dinobots that were seen but never really explained in the last night, and we never really got toys of them. So yeah, it's neat to see that. I think all three of them are coming in the box with Drift. Now, this is the same Drift mold that we've seen shell forming already, so it's kind of Hasbro's attempt to generate a little bit more interest in the figure, more saving a bit of money by using the same mold and just sort of updating its paint job. But packing in the mini Dinobots is also probably something that's going to appeal to collectors, because I think the mini Dinobots are one of the things that were kind of universally thought to be pretty cute, but we had no idea why they existed for the last night.
Yeah, I think they were just kind of unmemorable. Like, didn't really factor into anything.
No, they hadn't. Like, they had no bearing on anything, but they were cute. So yeah.
Question: you said current Drift mold. This isn't the last night Drift. If it is, they've added a heap of paint and detail to it.
I think they've added a heap of paint and detail to it.
Look at those shins. And secondly, shelf warming. I've not seen that figure anywhere ever.
If a figure is on the shelves, it warms.
Yeah.
All right. If someone knows it's on the shelf, buy it for me. I'll pay for shipping, because I really need this figure, and I'm going to wait for the Studio Series one because this one looks fantastic.
He does look good. Like, it is kind of funny to believe that it is the same figure that we currently have. Yeah, no, it is.
And the baby Dinobots is just an extra cherry on the cake.
Yeah, I think this seems to be continuing the sort of trend, I guess, at this point, of your two example series of Studio Series exclusives just being a previous mold from a different line, just with more paint.
Yeah. Look, there'll be a few that they slip in here and there. Also, just a slight call out. This is number 36 in the Studio Series line. Like, that is actually quite impressive, and they've managed to get quite a lot of figures out in this line.
Otherwise known as number 18 of the figures that aren't Bumblebee.
Yes. So yeah, and there's a little bit more of a close-up look at him there. And so with that, so there's also he is up for pre-order. You can buy him from Entertainment Earth if you're in the States, or if you are in Australia, he's up at Toybot Imports, and they're ready to take your orders now. Max.
Yes?
We need to talk about this guy quickly.
We need to talk about what the hell is going on here.
So we did see a couple of new figures for the Bumblebee movie. They are, what are they called? Energon Igniters. This guy is Megatron, also known as Blitzwing, apparently. So he has a tank mode that is practically Megatron, and he doesn't have a jet mode.
Yeah, I mean, so this is strange.
Just as strange as the movie.
Yeah. Okay, so like there's the whole thing of, they say the character is Blitzwing, but it looks like G1 Starscream, right? And then they do a prequel comic to the movie, which is very clearly not quite canon. Like,
no, it's canon.
It should be.
That thing cannot possibly be canon.
It is.
It's.
Sorry, it is.
Let's agree to disagree, and by disagree I mean agree that you're wrong.
That's not actually my definition of disagree.
Okay, but in that comic, there is a Blitzwing, and he looks nothing like the movie, and he has these colors.
It is set in like the 60s or the 70s or whatever, but yeah.
Yeah, I guess. But then you come out with a repaint. Like, mind you, the Blitzwing in that comic is very clearly a triple changer in his robot mode. The Blitzwing in the movie just looks like Starscream. There's no evidence of tank parts whatsoever.
Oh, you mean Starscream looking like Starscream and Blitzwing is a different character? Yeah, okay.
They're inverted quotes on air quotes with the Blitzwing.
I understand. However, in the line where we are getting a figure of Megatron and Hot Rod, even though they don't exist in the movie, sure, whatever. Here we go. So, Energon Igniters.
It's just odd. It's exactly the same alt mode, like engineering, to the fact that his head is between those front tank treads.
It's a repaint. It's a repaint. A one-step changer.
Yeah. Revenge of the Fallen.
That's what these figures are. These guys are one-step changes.
The weirdest thing with that for me is that he has the colors and the mold look nothing like it, but then he just has just a straight up Starscream looking head, complete with a red on the back. Like it looks just
True.
out of place. I don't understand.
I like the fact that there are people who think that this is actually an intentional fake out by Hasbro. It's great.
I just don't understand. I have no comprehension of what's going on right now with this character.
Doesn't matter. Let's keep looking at some other photos. So now, one of the things that we came up with last week was a theory that while the bots that are triple changes in Bumblebee will be triple changes on screen, they may not be represented by triple changing toys. Now, this is a version of Shatter that very clearly transforms into a car. There you go. And there's the Mad
let's
Max,
not look at that.
the Mad Max version. And let's scroll down a little bit here because this loads. Sorry, this is a version of Shadow that very clearly transforms into a jet. So, I believe you made this call last week, Brad, and you were quite right. They're not going to do triple changing figures, but they will do two characters for each of the figures. So there you go. So there's Shatter in jet and in robot mode. Let's go back to the abomination that was this.
The abomination. Okay. On a more technical note, you know how I was saying last week that it seems like this movie changed aesthetic halfway through?
Yes.
Is it like all the Prime figures seem to be like G1 colors, but the classic movie Prime design?
Oh yeah, it's definitely movie Prime elements.
So
Yes.
that makes, and because of a sort of 18-month development window for figures, I mean, but by which I mean, like, God knows how these things take 18 months. It makes me think that these were designed based on what they initially saw of a movie, and then when the movie lent more G1, they just didn't have time to change things.
No, it's always been a continuation of the Bay films, no matter what has been said previously. It's just retrofitting it.
Yeah. I think it's pretty obvious they're going to try and like sneak out some more movie toys, and see what happens. But like, the movie design is not completely incongruous. The movie toy design is not completely incongruous with what we're going to see on screen. So it's like you said, the aesthetic seems to have changed, but not that much. So we'll see. Anyway, let's go on. There's a Prime, and there's Shadows jet mode, and now we're back to Starscream. I think we're done. I think we're done.
I'm done and twice as confused as I've been about this thing yet.
Yeah, I'm not sure that we know exactly what is happening. So just to be clear, Max, what is your bet with Mikey?
Okay, my bet with Mikey is that I think the character is Starscream.
Which character?
Obvious. The main villain of the movie. The one that looks like G1 Starscream.
That we've seen in the trailer.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that is Starscream. Mikey thinks it's Blitzwing. If it's Starscream, I get $50 off of Mikey. If it's Blitzwing, I pay Mikey $50.
All right. Cool.
And if the bet is off, if there is some stupid reveal where the character goes, "Oh, you thought I was Blitzwing, but actually I'm Starscream," or the other way around.
No, because it's still Starscream. Doesn't matter if he's under a shadow of Blitzwing, it's still Starscream. There's no bet off. It's either Starscream or it's not. Or it's
Mikey was insistent, so I agreed to that.
Yeah.
Sounds like one of you is getting cold feet.
Yep. Anyway, you're feeling just like I'm feeling about the whole Siege thing. So.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. We got so none of us have new acquisitions this week, so I wanted to talk a little bit, just quickly give a shout out to one of our Facebook members who wowed us all with this week. I'm talking about Pen
Crystal
Chan.
Pepsi.
Well, so it's a crystal G1 convoy, and there is no crystal G1 convoy. So what he's actually done is he's purchased a clear KO and colored all of the pieces. So he's taken it apart, and you can see his sort of blown up shot here. He's taken it apart, he's colored all of the pieces and put them all back together as a crystal G1 convoy. So great job. It looks fantastic.
How do you colour clear without just painting over it?
I don't know.
There are
It's
there are
very impressive.
there
Is
are
it
ways to do this.
dyed?
I think it is. I think it is dyed, but you
Yeah.
can also ask Penn.
Well, I
Yeah.
think some customizers I've seen will they can dye opaque plastic. So I'm assuming it's more plausible to do it for clear plastic.
Remember, we've also seen people change the color of the clear Soundwave masterpiece that was Year of the Goat. We called it Goat Wave. We've seen people change it to blue.
Yes, a whole lot of people, a lot smarter than I am, know how to do this.
Yeah, like basically it's chemicals, right?
Well, yeah. Yeah. But this isn't painting over the clear figure. This is making the clear white into clear.
It is not painting, no.
No, this is clear red, clear blues, like that head, the legs, you can see through it. It's weird.
Yeah, look, it's like I said, it's really impressive. I wanted to make sure that I brought it up on the podcast this week because, like, it's the amount of effort that he's gone to do it is just it's really blowing me away. So
I might have to send him a message.
Yeah. Now that is it for like the screen share portion of the show. There is a little bit of TCCA business to discuss. Brad, you're at a convention tomorrow. Which one is it?
Border Dimensions here in Albury Wodonga. It's we've done it. This is the third year we've been doing it, so it's going to be good to get out and display again. Most of my stuff's been packed up since Nerd Mania a couple of months ago. So once this one's done, I can unpack some figures and get them back in me display again.
Cool. And Max, you went to the Comics and Toy Fair on Monday, which for some of the eastern states was a public holiday. I think it was a public holiday in Adelaide too, right?
Yeah, it was one of
Labor Day or
was
something.
It? Yeah, something like that. I don't know what it is. I just know I don't have to do anything that day.
Turns out this year you did.
No, but yeah, we was at the Comic and Toy Fair again. It was funny. I was like, it's just another one of these. I'm not going to make a big fuss about it. I'm not going to do anything spectacular. And it ended up being one of the better shows we've had in the Comic and Toy Fair because it's like Brett, the guy who runs it, he does a fantastic friggin' job getting that thing set up. Like, it is an achievement making that work, and it gets better and better every time. There was a massive backlog of people who couldn't get a stall this time around because there's just so much demand. So he's going to move it to a bigger location for the next one, which is fantastic for us.
Yeah, great.
And
so this isn't the same thing as the one I came over for a couple of months ago.
So yeah, you went to the Mega Toy Fair, which is it's just bigger. It's basically just a bigger version and not quite as well run. I say that. That's not really a dig. It's more just that Brett knows what he's doing and he does it really well. Like it's started in like his back garden and moved to a kind of like the Croatian club or something, and now I think the next location it's going to be. Then it went to now it's at CBC, and I think it's going to move to the showgrounds. Like he's got his stuff down pat.
Cool.
And just as a TCCA event, it was just really, really good to get new people interested, but also just chat and meet with so many people who have just have a really legitimate passion and love for the hobby. It was a really good day.
Excellent.
Yeah, nice.
Did you buy anything? No, clearly not.
I had a good mate of mine, Sam Cripps, actually gifted me a G1 Silverbolt box, which was pretty sweet.
Nice.
All right. I think we are at the point where we have reached the end of the show. We've gone a little bit over time, but I think it's okay because there's a lot of new toys to talk about. Does anyone have anything to raise before we close it out?
No, I think that's it.
We're done? All right. Yep. So, everyone, thank you for listening. If you are watching the live record, thanks for checking us out. We're going to check you out right back. Just pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. If you want to find out more about these stories, you'll find links to all of them and more in the show notes posted to the Facebook page and the Podbean site. You can find us on transformersweekly.podbean.com if you want to subscribe, and our Facebook page is Australian Transformers Weekly, and Brad and Max and I are all in Transformers Collectors Club Australia on Facebook. You can, of course, find more information about Transformers Collectors Club Australia at transformerscca.com. TCCA is a registered club in Victoria run by volunteers who donate their time and money, like us right now, to make the club better for everyone. We want to connect Transformers fans around the country, and we do it by engaging the collecting community. Sometimes we like to argue as well. That is it from us, and we'll be back with more Transformers news next week. We do expect that being the week after New York Comic Con, it might be a bit of a slow week for news, but we'll see how it goes when we get to next Friday night.
There'll be crumbs. You can pick up some crumbs.
There'll be something around. All right. Thanks, everyone, and goodbye.
Awesome. Night, guys.